Steve, why was there inconsistency between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK?
Well, one of the things about these pension schemes is they are a law unto themselves. They all have their own rules, their own regulations, and what had happened was a cohabiting couple could get a pension when one of them died, but only if a certain form had been filled in, whereas if they were married, it happened automatically. And what the courts ruled today is that's discriminatory, and they have to change that.
And the key thing is this has implications for other public sector schemes right across the UK, for example, firefighters' pension schemes, the NHS and so on.
It does. I was looking at the rules this evening online for things like the NHS scheme, and they still refer to these nomination forms having to be filled in. There's even quite detailed stuff about couples having to be in long-term, stable, committed relationships, and, that has to be 2 years, and all of this stuff will have to be looked at again. And, across Britain, we're talking 6 million people now living as couples, not married, and for every one of them, their pension position is just a little bit grey.
What about the cost implications for the public? I mean, what happened to this money if it didn't go to cohabitees like Denise Brewster in the first place?
Well, the way public sector pensions work mostly is it's paid for by today's taxes. So the NHS, for example, that would be the case. So if cohabitees got new rights, taxes have to go up to pay for it. The local government scheme is what's called a funded scheme. So there is a pot of money, but again, it's today's taxes, the local government who are paying in. So if cohabitees get extra benefits, more money will have to go in to pay for them.
And so potentially this is massive implications for deficit reduction then?
Over time, yes. I mean, obviously, in any given year, the number of people who die, the number of cohabitees die mercifully is not that huge. But over time, over all of the schemes, you could see the cost building up into many millions of pounds. And obviously not just the public sector, because the private sector will have to look at its rules again as well.
Yes, so what's the implications for the private sector from this ruling?
Well, the private sector is under different rules. So, for example, a company that provides a pension instead of the state doesn't have to provide to cohabiting couples at all, because the state pension doesn't provide for cohabiting couples, so that's another set of rules. And really, schemes won't necessarily have to change everything tomorrow morning, but they should certainly be getting down with their lawyers and looking at whether there's discrimination in their schemes as well.
So if you were still in your old job as Pensions Minister then, I mean, how would you be trying to sort out this mess? I mean, is this something that's going to require legislation?
I do think it needs doing systematically. We really have a patchwork quilt at the moment, and I would say to anybody who's living together as a couple and doesn't know where they stand, talk to your scheme, find out if they know who your partner is, find out if they would qualify. If they wouldn't, check whether there's anything you can do about that. But really, it shouldn't be down to the individual. It needs doing systematically.
And of course, make sure all those forms are up to date.
Absolutely.
All right, so Steve Webb, thanks for joining me.